Stones with high levels of moisture absorption are stronger or weaker. Go ahead and hit pause. What you think. If it's more absorption, it's generally weaker. Generally, the more porous and less dense stones are the weakest, things like limestone. They're the most susceptible to freeze-thaw damage. They're the most susceptible to corrosion of the metal anchors that are holding them to buildings. And the least porous stones and the most dense stones, things like granite, are the most durable. Next question. The metric most important in determining the ability of a stone to accept metal anchors that hold them to buildings is blank. Compressive strength, flexural strength, or modulus of rupture. Hit pause and choose one. The answer is modulus of rupture. The compressive strength is most important for stone in a load-bearing wall because, well, it's compressive strength. The flexural strength is most important for resistance to wind, which can be a problem in the thin panels that we sometimes see on buildings. The modulus of rupture is the most important when we're considering the likelihood of peeling away from the anchors. That's our answer here. So we have these anchors, and we have the masonry, and we're going to tie the masonry to the backup wall with these anchors. And these anchors have tolerances. They can slide up and down, and they're stainless steel, and they can slide in between the mortar. You see the anchors here, and here, and here, and all over this building. Next question. Rectangular stone that is quarried is called blank. Rectangular stone that is quarried is called blank. Is the answer dimension stone or rubble? The answer is dimension stone. Stones are categorized by shape and size. So we have field stone, which is from riverbeds and what might be strewn on fields. We have rubble, which is irregular quarried stone with at least one exposable face. We have the dimension stone we talked about here. It's quarried stone and it's cut into rectangular shapes. And the large slabs are called cut stone, and the small rectangular units are called ashlar. We have flagstone, which is regular or irregular shaped, and it's used for floors or paving. And you should know that stone, if it's quarried from far away, it's going to use a lot more energy, right? So if you're picking an Italian stone and you're not in Italy, well, its embodied energy can multiply 20 times if you're picking a stone that's shipped from far away relative to a local stone. So I think you want to start with local stones and then move outward, rather than starting with the most beautiful element and then trying to figure out where that might come from. So next question, what's the difference between stone masonry and stone cladding? Go ahead and hit pause. Stone masonry is stacked with mortar like brick. Stone cladding is attached to a building with anchors. It's just kind of a thin skin. So stone masonry is prone to staining. We've talked about efflorescence before. This is stone masonry. And this is stone cladding. All right, we're going to name each of the following types of stone masonry face patterns, okay? So which one is this one? This is called coursed ashlar. This is the drawing, but in real life it looks something like this. Now, what am I talking about? Well, we have two different shapes of stone. We have rubble and we have ashlar. Rubble is non-rectangular and ashlar is rectangular. Then we have different ways to lay them up in the wall. We can lay them up randomly, or we can lay them up coursed. We have layer after layer. So we can have random rubble or we can have random ashlar. We can have coursed rubble or coursed ashlar. Those are our choices. So let's go ahead and look at some examples and see if we can get them. Which one is this? Random ashlar. It's random because they're not stacked up in neat lines that run horizontally continuously. And they're ashlar because they're square or rectangular. looks like this. These are all random ashlar. What about this one? That's coursed rubble. Coursed rubble. It's coarse because you see these horizontal lines kind of go continuously all the way across. So we're laying course after course. And it's rubble because many of the shapes are not rectangular. So this is coursed rubble. What about this one? That's random rubble. Rubble because the elements are not rectangular, and random because they're not laid in kind of horizontal bands of courses. So this is random rubble. It looks like this, or like this, or like this, or like this, or like this. So we have random rubble, coursed rubble, random ashlar, and coursed ashlar. So which one is this one? You got it now. It's random rubble. What about this one? Well, if you said random ashlar, you'd be right, kind of. It's actually concrete. It's just made to look like stone. This is this is my son in front of a monument, and this monument was just built. I mean, it was just built, and it was already falling apart. It was already falling apart. And so when we have something that's supposed to look like something else, it frankly never works out, right? So remember the VW Bug, the new Bug, and the PT Cruiser came out at the same time. The VW Bug was made to pay homage to the old Beetles, the old VW Bugs, but it really wasn't supposed to look old. By contrast, the PT Cruiser was supposed to look old, but it never really looked old. And they were both really popular at first. But after not very long, the PT Cruiser was pretty much relegated to the rental car fleet because nobody would buy one. And the VW Bug remains popular today. So this is the problem when we take a new material and we try to make it look old. So you walk around this little monument and you get a little closer, and you start to realize, I mean, it was falling apart everywhere. There were just chips just coming off. So that's a problem with this kind of fake stuff. This old house named Fake Brick, number 5 on its all-time list of worst design ideas. This kind of idea that we have this fake plastic brick. Next question. For best strength and weather resistance, stone is laid with grain running blank, horizontally or vertically? The answer is horizontally. Let's talk about mortar joints. So if we have a mortar joint, we're going to have the first half inch or so is going to be raked, which means the first half of an inch to an inch is going to be removed. The mortar is going to be removed. And what that does is it prevents uneven settling. And then we're going to fill it later with what's called pointing mortar. And the pointing mortar is what's going to be visible in the front. So if that starts to chip away, we're going to do something called repointing. So here's my question. Which one should be stronger, pointing mortar or the rest of the mortar, the structural mortar that's deeper in? As you might imagine, the rest of the mortar, it's important that's actually stronger. We don't want the pointing mortar to be stronger because then that would be like a kid riding a bike with training wheels if the training wheels were lower than the real wheels. So that the training wheels are lower than the real wheels, then all the weight's going to be on the training wheels, not on the real ones. Same thing. So the pointing mortar is going to be weaker, typically type O or type N, which are our weaker mortars. And instead of pointing mortar, we have the option of using an elastomeric joint sealer instead. Next question. Stone is lifted with blank. Lewis pins or strap anchors? Go ahead and guess. A lot of people get this one wrong. It's Lewis pins. That's the answer. Lewis pins are what are used for lifting stone, and they're inserted into the stone temporarily. They look something like this. And you surely have seen stone that has remnants or you can kind of see the residue of what was where the Lewis pins went in. This is called a box Lewis. This is an alternate form of Lewis pin. Strap anchors look like this. They're the things that are going to anchor the mortar to the wall in between a course of stone and another course of stone. And they go onto the wall like this. So let's talk about our methods of stone anchoring. So we have lots of different ways to anchor some masonry back to the structural wall, but they all pretty much fall under the category of we're going to do it at the seams, whether it's mortar or whether it's something else, we're going to do it where the stone seams are. So we're going to have our flashing, and we're going to have our backup wall. And then every so often in our backup wall, we're going to have these, in this case, these are called adjustable brackets, and we're going to have a strap anchor that holds the stone back to the backup wall. In this regime, we have Z-ties that are going to hold the brick or masonry to the backup wall of CMU. In this example, it's the same kind of thing, but we're going to have a 3-wire truss tie. So we're going to put this thin metal truss tie horizontally, and we're going to do it every so many courses. Most of these happen every so many courses, and they're going to link and make a composite out of the backup wall and the masonry wall and still maintain the capillary break, still maintain the drainage plane in between. Here we have the steel column anchor. So we're taking steel and we're attaching it to CMU, concrete masonry units. We have ladder loop ties, just another geometry of metal that's going to attach the CMU backup wall to the masonry veneer wall. We have dovetail anchors. So we have concrete backup. We're going to cast these tracks into it, and then we're going to run the dovetail anchors up and down as needed to find the right spot in between the stone. We have corrugated ties that connect the sheathing member to the masonry. We have adjustable ties. And we have adjustable stone ties. That's kind of like what we saw before. Those are going to slide up and down as necessary, and they're going to sit in the mortar joints between the masonry.